What if that nagging feeling in the back of your neck was real? What if those hands reaching out from the dark that you believed were there were there? What if the monster in the basement really existed? And what if there was really something under the bed? Would you have the courage to face your fears? Hello, brave souls, and welcome back to Fear. I'm your host, Paul Rondeau, and in this week's tale we have I listened to Creepypastas to fall asleep, and now I can't stop. Written by J. Waters 17. I haven't been sleeping well lately. Any number of people could probably say this. Whether it's the fear of the ongoing pandemic, or the worry for friends and loved ones. I can't say I haven't felt these daily burdens, but the source of my insomnia, or as of late, is a bit more complicated. Many people suffer nightmares after watching or reading something scary before going to bed. I get the nightmares when I don't. I have always needed a crutch in order to get a good night's sleep. It started as a kid with a nightlight, not too out of the ordinary. Gradually, it turned into the glow of a muted television set. My dad would be constantly reprimanding me for high electricity bills. In my teenage years, it had been the humming of a bedside fan, and for the last few years, I've listened to music to fall asleep. I just need some sort of background activity, whether it is visual or sonic, to put my mind at ease. It's not a fear of the dark necessarily, maybe it's just the fear of the void of empty space with no sound or light, so I've been getting along pretty well. In spite of its innate fear, I have always been a fan of horror. Halloween has always been my favorite holiday, and I was instantly drawn into the world of internet urban legends, or creepypastas. It started with the stories, and has progressed into the audio gifs of podcasts and YouTube videos. Soon, I was flushed with stories on a daily basis. I really enjoyed being able to listen to all these endless hours of entertainment during an otherwise boring task. Got a long drive coming up? Time to fire up my phone and get through a few podcasts. Got a meal prep for the week? Let's pull up YouTube and see what news stories my favorite subscriptions have narrated today. Looking back on it, I always took that simple joy for granted. I wish I hadn't. Soon, I even began to listen to these stories before going to bed. I can't explain why the otherwise terrifying and engaging stories put me at ease so much. Maybe it harkens back to being a kid and having my dad read my brother and me Goosebumps books before going to bed. I can't say with any certainty, but it was effective. Before the first story would end, I'd be deep in the embraces of a good night's sleep. And so it went. I'd go about my daily routine and end each night with some sort of creepypasta narration before falling asleep. Then, things started to change. Once the pandemic hit, I was forced to work remotely from home. I'd never been much of an office person to begin with. However, this untethering from the corporate setting may have led me to abuse the accessibility of all this scary entertainment. Every day, as long as I was getting my work done and my projects completed, I could have whatever I wanted in the background. I was no longer coming home to see a day's worth of spooky content on my laptop. Everything was at my fingertips, and I had no need for self-control. I'd see and listen to everything that was uploaded, search, watch, digest, repeat. By the end of the day, I would have nothing new to listen to before going to bed. For the first few days, minor things would occur. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, disoriented, unable to fall back asleep. I'd end up spending the rest of the night waiting for my alarm to go off. While this bothered me, I am no stranger to insomnia and chalked it up to undue stress. Then came the nightmares. Maybe that's not the correct term. I can't remember even having a particular bad dream during this time. Every night I'd wake up, not jolted back into reality from some terrible illusion. I'd wake up because the feeling of overwhelming presence hovering over me. I would feel this grim energy up until the very moment I opened my eyes, only to be greeted by the dark interior of my room. I tried to white-knuckle through this before I started to see a noticeable decline in my mood and energy. This was not a very good time to be visiting a doctor's office. This is especially true if the affliction was sleeping problems. So, I looked within for anything that might be causing these problems. Maybe I was drinking too much coffee. I cut the caffeine for a week, but that only led to migraines. Maybe I needed to change my bedspread. A large order placed at Bed Bath & Beyond later, and I was now staring at ceiling every night, but in blue sheets. My music wasn't helping, nor my bedside fan. I was at a loss and was worried that if this continued, I could be at risk of some serious health problems. I decided to take a friend's advice and try one of those immersive soothing sounds ASMR videos. If 10 hours night rain hitting a car window didn't work, then I was going to need professional help. It was 2 a.m. I was still as awake as when my head hit the pillow. At this point, I thought the reality of something really being wrong was keeping me up. At 2:15, I decided to give up and look for a doctor in the morning. I turned to my right and I reached over to close my laptop on my bed. As I pressed the top down and the glow of the screen blacked out, I saw it. Sitting on top of my bedside table was a gaunt, pale figure, just staring back at me. Its eyes were vacant sockets that gave no indication what its next move would be. It sat, with its knees pulled all the way up to its chest. Its knees stood just below its chin. I refocused my eyes on its face. It turned its head slightly and shoots a toothy grin at me. It then began to laugh. It wasn't like an ordinary person laughing. Its mouth appeared to mimic a chuckle, but no noise came out. No voice or growls, nothing but the shaking of my table as this thing was laughing hysterically in the corner. I couldn't breathe. My heart was beating so fast and sweat was pouring down my face. I thought I might actually be having a heart attack. Was I going to die? Would this horrible thing be the last thing I ever saw in this life? Then suddenly my vision went blurry and everything went dark. I woke up the next morning, not in a panic, but well rested. It took me glancing at my digital clock to relive the terror of the previous night. I sat up in bed trying to convince myself that last night was an illusion created by my tired brain. Maybe even a nightmare with microsleep that my body had forced upon me. It was then I got up that I noticed the new dents and scuff marks on the wall near the corner of my nightstand. I went up at my work day trying to process everything that had happened the previous night. Without even realizing it, I found myself more awake and energetic than I had been in weeks. Come to think of it, that had been the best night's sleep I'd had in a while. I started to put things together. That thing, whatever it is, needs my fear. For what purpose, I don't know. I do know that once I started listening to Creepypastas to fall asleep again, I have been getting some of the most amazing deep sleeps of my life. Maybe this thing and me are in some symbiotic relationship, and always have been. Maybe it's simply a parasite and I'm just the most appetizing host. Regardless, I know what I have to do. Now I always make sure to keep a scary story aside for the night. I spend hours during the day collecting and keeping a backlog of creepypastas so I never run out. I don't get joy from them anymore, but I need them. I've done a good job during this month. It is spooky season, right? And that has helped. But I need to do better. Sometimes one story a night doesn't cut it. I've been seeing that thing again lately. I need more suggestions for stories, podcasts, and videos. Please send me any and all recommendations. When it doesn't get its fear, it comes to take it from me. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the story. Big thank you to the author for creating such an interesting and genuinely creepy experience. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe or follow for more videos just like this one. If you'd like to support the channel, you can check out my Patreon link in the description below and know that I genuinely appreciate it. Follow me over on Twitter at podcast_fear or Facebook at Fear the Podcast. Thank you again for listening to the story, and until next time, always remember to face your fears.